Yes, it's focused Nigeria, and the PDP is again the focus this morning in our conversation, and specifically we'll be looking at developments in Rivers State, one of the many states where the PDP had a very acrimonious primaries. The crisis in the Rivers PDP actually began before the primaries, but got accentuated by that event. Like in many states, Rivers State is a multi-ethnic state, sharply divided along ethnic nationalities who are riverine, mainly the Ogones and the Calabaris, and of course other ethnic nationalities referred to as those in the upland Rivers people. The clamor for power shift from the upland to the riverine side preceded the PDP primaries, and perhaps the deep-rootedness of this agitation was clearly borne out by the preponderance of the aspirants from the riverine area across the PDP and the APC. We're talking of those coming from the riverine ethnic nationalities of Ogonis and the Calabaris. Now, while most of those aspirants campaigned for an adherence to the PDP constitution, which favors power rotation, the PDP bluntly refused to budge and threw the field open to all aspirants. Of course, the rest is history. Former Minister of State for Education, Chief Nyesom Wike, who is believed to have taken control of the party's structures long before then, easily coasted home. Expectedly, the PDP House has become divided since. As a result, last week, the PDP moved swiftly to reconcile the warring sides, setting up a 69-member committee divided into three to visit each of the three senatorial districts. This firefighting measure has paid off. Many of the 16 aspirants who have been up in arms have sheathed their swords and have decided to work together for the PDP's common good. But there are those that have left the umbrella foot and will slug it out with the PDP candidate. There are also as well those not yet reconciled and have also vowed not to leave the PDP while still being aggrieved with the party. My guest today, Pastor Lulu-Briggs, is in this last category, and you wonder at what point he is trying to prove staying in the PDP. We will find out when he joins me shortly. Just a quick one here on other issues evolving. This year is proving to be a tough one in the global aviation industry. The fatality from plane crashes has climbed over 2,000 deaths now, with the latest being that of an Indonesian plane which got missing yesterday morning and has been confirmed crashed now, probably buried in the sea somewhere. The Air Asia Airbus 320-200 series had 162 people on board, 155 of whom were passengers and the rest crew members. 138 of the 155 passengers were adults, 16 children, and 1 infant. So far, we can't confirm if any Nigerian was on board this plane, but you cannot rule it out. We are everywhere, really. Very itinerant people. But we can't confirm if any Nigerian is or was on board that plane for now. A global effort to locate the wreckage of the plane is on, being coordinated by some warships. On the domestic scene, nothing much is happening, nothing much to add, except that all the state resident electoral commissioners are being moved around as part of INEC's preparations for the general elections, which is just about 47 days away. Meanwhile, the full list of candidates, too, is there to be pasted by INEC, so it's something to wait for. All right, let's prepare for our discussions this morning. Lulu-Briggs will be joining me right on this platform in a couple of minutes from now.
I'll sing that one. It says, so far, so far, so far, so far, so far, so far forward. Now your fault to be that. Me I say, now your fault to be that. Africa, 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 Africa.
Okay, sorry about that. We are starting the discussions now. My guest is here. Pastor Lulu-Briggs is joining me for these discussions. I don't know how to describe him now. Will I still call him a PDP governorship aspirant? How do you want me to introduce you in relationship with the PDP?
Yes, a PDP aspirant, because the issues are not resolved fully yet.
Is anybody in court?
Yes. Yes.
Certainly not you?
No, not me. H. Odenya Adimogobia, SAN is in court.
Okay, yeah. Former Minister of Justice.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. There you have it. He's joining me for discussions this morning. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas too. And
I hope it was very merry on your side.
Well, it's difficult to be very happy when your people are not. So I wouldn't say it was quite merry. Yes, but we had the time. It was a festive period. We tried to make the most of it.
And the New Year is just hours away from now too. In case I don't see you before the New Year too, maybe I should also wish you a very happy New Year in advance.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, and I wish all Nigerians a wonderful year.
Okay.
2015.
But certainly we will be entering a very, very testy period in the history of this country. Why do you think this period is holding this much fear for everybody? 2015 again is a year that so many things have been said about. Yeah. Will Nigeria remain one indissoluble country? And then we are holding an election that will be so bitterly fought. What are your fears about 2015? Well,
yes, I have my fears, but I'm also an incurable optimist. We know that the campaigns are going on in the depths of winter. You know, I would describe it, given the level of pain, the agonies, you know, and then the expectations. But because of the things that we are expected to say, yeah, and our conduct, you know, we can force the spring. We hope that we're able to force the spring, and Nigerians are able to have wonderful elections. And then, of course, elections being free and fair will have a certain outcome. Nigerians would accept that outcome. And then, of course, whoever wins, or with all the several persons that will win, including governors and the rest of it, will be able to give Nigerians, you know, a truly representative government.
But do you think the 2015 elections will be bitterly fought?
Yes, well, because for the first time we have a very strong opposition, you know, and people don't like to be out of office. So the rhetoric that we have employed has been so intense, you know, and very frightening. We have not tried to tone down our language. We agree that, you know, sometimes you have to criticize, but it has to be, you know, compelling and not inciting. You know, what we've had have been very inciting. You know, words, ruinous words, you know, being used constantly at play. Well, Nigeria, you know, God loves this country, and hopefully and prayerfully too, we shall overcome. We'll get through all of these things and have one strong, you know, united country.
Is the fact that we have two dominant parties now what is making the 2015 elections all this, you know, this high tempo that we are seeing? Is it because we have those two dominant parties? If that is the reason, we once had two parties before, a little to the left, a little to the right, and I'm not so sure the tempo of the country then was at this level.
Yeah, well, you know, then we had
the big brothers in khaki.
Yes, we had
everybody.
Oh yes, you know, we had a military administration, so people were mindful of the things they said. But even those elections, you know, were very keenly fought, and of course, all of us are part of the history, and we know what happened. An election that was adjudged to be the freest and the fairest in the history of Nigeria was not allowed to hold. You know, it didn't stand. So whenever you have two parties, yes, the contest is usually very fierce. But that's what our democracy needs, you know, so that, I mean, at all times, anybody who wins will know that there's a strong opposition. If you don't do well, then perhaps, you know, the next 4 years, you would find yourself, you know, back in office. So I think it's a good thing to happen.
So it's a choice between A or B.
Oh yes, oh yes, and that's what it is. And both sides are serious gladiators. both sides, you don't want to be in office. So you find this, you know, serious campaigns going on.
But is that good for our democratic evolution.
Yes, you know, it's an experience.
The fact that we have a strong opposition now that could challenge the ruling party on all fronts.
Oh, you know, it's wonderful. It's wonderful, you know, and we have to commend this president for allowing that to happen.
Was he the one that allowed it to happen?
Oh yes, because I mean, yes,
could he have stopped it?
Yeah, well, yes.
I'm not sure he's the one that forced. Is it ACN, CPC, ANPP to merge?
Well, in the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo, all efforts to get a strong opposition, was thwarted by the ruling government. This president deliberately encouraged, this sort of opposition, and so we must commend him for that. I think that he has shown Nigeria that he has the courage. He's not afraid, to be voted out of office. His record should stand for him. His record should count for him, and I think, and I know that he's proud of his record. So he has allowed a credible opposition, right, to be formed right under his nose.
Okay, we may come back to general politics later, because there are people who are also canvassing that because of the intensity of the campaigns we are seeing thus far, particularly what we referred to much earlier, that's the tenor of the language. That probably there is need to commit the two dominant parties to some kind of bond to be of good behavior now, during, and after the elections. I'll come back to that subsequently, but let's get back to Rivers. So how is it panning out in Rivers PDP?
Well, it's an experience.
All settles, no cause for alarm?
Well, I wish that were the case. That's what we pray for, but that's not what we have. There has been some effort, I wouldn't deny that, right, at reconciliation. But I do not think that the efforts have been sincere. A lot of us are still outside of the box because we insist, to be spoken to by the leadership of the party. We need to know, we need to get answers. First of all, after the charade, that happened on December 8th, there were petitions and appeals that were sent to the National Working Committee, and we've not been spoken to yet.
December 8th, that was
the day of the primaries.
The governorship.
Yeah,
but there was something before that day. There was the World Congresses.
Well, we had issues, all along, right?
Were the issues arising from the World Congresses resolved?
None of those issues.
Before we moved to December 8th.
None of those issues, were resolved. Regardless, we still felt, well, as party members, we should participate in the primary, even though we're all, complaining about the primary, that it wouldn't be fair. It was skewed in a way that would, present to Rivers people, right, to PDP, a particular aspirant. We protested all of it, but the party didn't listen. The party perhaps listened, but didn't act. Regardless, we went on to participate at the primaries. Unfortunately, most of us didn't even know the venue of the primaries.
Why?
I don't understand. We can't have.
It was supposed to be a public place. Probably advertised or known to every aspirant, known to every delegate. Why didn't you know the venue?
Well,
was it changed overnight or what?
That's the problem, Benga. We can't have two versions that are mutually exclusive. You can have two versions, but you can't have two versions that cannot, coexist. That's what we had, in Rivers State. All the actions from before the primaries to the date of the primaries and what happened on the day of the primary run completely, against the PDP constitution.
How so?
Diametrically opposed to the PDP constitution.
Yeah, how so?
Well, first of all, right, we have a constitution that says that there has to be zoning, of elective and appointive offices. And so we thought, in Rivers State we have a governor. He won the elections on the platform of the PDP. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even the candidate at the time of the elections. But the Supreme Court said, well, that he was meant to be the candidate. Therefore, the election, the PDP victory, should be given to him.
Yes, because he was one that won the only known process, about the only process known by law.
Yeah, we agree. Therefore, right, it's always about the party, and not about the individual. But then, of course, the party will have to present an individual, and there ought to be a process, that will lead to that. Now, we do not want the Rotimi Amechi situation, right, on our hands anymore. We need to know who that credible candidate is. So we thought that the PDP, ought to abide by its constitution, ought to abide by its rules, And then provision clearly, in Section 7C of our Constitution talks about zoning and rotation of elective offices. We didn't see that. And then, of course, the provision says that the venue of the primary, right, would be published, the list of delegates published 7 days to the date of the primary. We didn't have that. For most of us didn't even know where the venue was until about 9 o'clock or so on the day of the primary. And that's very unfortunate. And therefore, you will find that a lot of the aspirants, couldn't access, the venue. And then also against the rules, we ought to have accreditation from 8 o'clock till about 12, or shortly thereafter if we couldn't complete the exercise about that time. Unfortunately, in the case of Rivers State, by 11:48, results had been announced.
Because there were fewer candidates that were present.
No, well,
I think apart from Wiki, there was just only one other person, no, 2 others.
No, I think there were about 5 or so.
Okay.
Yes, about 5 they were present. But it doesn't have to do.
I noticed somebody who came on there and said that, because it was transmitted live by AIT, somebody who admitted that he was a candidate, was an aspirant, and they lost and they accepted it.
Oh yes, well, you always will have such persons, and we knew even as the campaigns were going on, that certain persons had already formed, close alliances, so that whatever the outcome, they knew what they were working for, and then whatever the outcome, somebody will come out and accept, the outcome, whether it was flawed or not, and then so what happened wasn't a surprise to most of us, who truly, sought to contest that election, who were true aspirants. We know those who are serious about the elections and those who were not. So nobody was surprised about that. But is it being right? It's not the time that you should take, right, to conduct, to count the votes that ought to matter alone. We need to have proper accreditation, and then of course voting, right, is meant to begin at 12. Because they understand that some persons just might be coming. Some persons are perhaps probably still on their way, And in the case of Rivers State, where the venue was not even known to anybody, people will be in some sort of quandary, trying to find out where the venue was. Therefore, at least if we started, the voting process at 12, and then you have over 1,000 or so delegates, people will come out and then they will vote. You will see the whole thing in a very transparent manner, the way it was done in some other states. In Rivers State, it was completely, the opposite. And then, of course, if the rule says that the voting should commence at 12, you could not have announced any results at 11:48. So, yes, the issues are serious, and we need to try and get these issues addressed properly, because we're going to get into a general election. Nigerians are waiting to engrave on their expectant minds how the PDP, will rise to the Rivers State question. They are hoping that they will see PDP's sense of justice, PDP's sense of fairness, right? PDP's sense of equity at play. And, I worry because it's not about me, it's about my party. I've come to love this party so very much. And I do not want to see anything that may affect the fortunes, of my party. That's why I'm saying that, that we have to balance the competing interests of peace, interests of justice, and that of reconciliation. It's not just about reconciliation. We need to know what happened. And then we also need to know what we're telling our people. Because some of us fought these primaries, also on the principles. Right? We have a situation in Rivers State where we have to respect the various, groups. It's a plural state. Several groups have come together to form a state. And our forebears have devised an ingenious method that have guaranteed that we live harmoniously. So the minimum that we should expect is that those things, should continue. What we have today, right, is a serious threat to our sense of a common future. And it bothers a whole lot of us, So we need answers. The issue that, PDP had to employ what was expedient because somebody was thought to be the strongest person, who could win that election, right? It's very insulting to a lot of people. You cannot see Edumo Lulu-Briggs and Odey Ajimogobia, Professor Dunbar, and then say that they cannot win elections in Rivers State. But even if that were the case, let us look at it this way. What would the PDP say to Nigerians as reason that they will have in 2019, after 4 more years of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, to present another candidate of the South-South?
As president.
As a candidate for president. Even if, we think that he's the only one who can win elections for us. What sort of Nigeria do you expect to have? So people should just not be silent. because it is happening in Rivers State. Rivers is a microcosm of Nigeria. If we allow this precedent to take root, we do not know how far it may stretch. Therefore, we are asking all well-meaning Nigerians to look to these issues, and lend their voice to it. Let's see how we can resolve these issues. But there is a tomorrow, which for all of us is very important.
Two issues we have raised here. Let me pick the first one, which is the zoning and rotation clause in the PDP constitution. A lot of people have argued that there's a limit to which we can hold on to that this provision of the PDP constitution comes in only when certain things have happened. For example, you also have to look at existing circumstances. For example, in 2011, when President Jonathan became the candidate of the PDP, it wasn't the turn of the South, because I know that in the PDP constitution, rotation of the presidency is between North and South. Now, it wasn't the turn of the South, as at that time, the South having been there for 2 years, for 2 terms, and the North having been there only for just 4 years or 2 years when President Yar'Adua died. And so 2011 was an opportunity to go back to that equity clause. But here you have a sitting president. And the argument there was that you first of all must, if a sitting president first of all reserves the right of first refusal. And it is only when you have settled that, if you had settled, for example, that he deserves a right of first refusal and he accepts, then the principle of rotation then comes in which case the other offices would now have to be balanced along the zoning and rotation formula. If you apply that to Rivers, doesn't it whittle down your argument as to zoning in a way?
No, rather, I feel that it strengthens.
How?
Yeah, and I will explain that in just a few minutes. For every general rule, there's bound to be an exception, but the exception has got to be reasonable, and we have to take it on a case-by-case basis, based on the merits of that particular case. Now, as in the case of President Goodluck Jonathan in 2011, he is from an area of this country that has also never produced the president of the country.
Perhaps he was also a sitting president.
And perhaps was also a sitting president. Therefore, there was a reason for us to see if we could have an exception to the rule of zoning, in our constitution. But in the case of Rivers State, we have a governor who is from the same ethnic group as the PDP aspirant.
Yes.
And that's why we think that in that case, it
was
is
elected on the platform of the PDP, but
of the PDP.
Decamped.
Yeah, well, it's I do not think that the fact that he left meant that the election wasn't a PDP victory. The PDP victory, and then of course someone stole our victory. He took our victory to a different party. So we need to get our victory back. That much we understand. But is he in office, and where is he from? And would he have been in office for 8 years, unbroken, at the expiration of his tenure in 2015? He would have been in office for 8 years unbroken.
And he had a predecessor too.
Oh well, I think that he ran part of the tenure of Rotimi.
No. What I mean is that Governor Rotimi Amechi had a predecessor too, who also had 8 years, also from that same part. From the same
from the same upland. I mean, the upland persons have had governance for 16 years unbroken. And then we have this bipolar arrangement of upland riverine. But even if we have to look beyond the bipolar arrangement of upland riverine, right, we have ethnic groups that have never produced a governor. It will be wrong for us to think, that we can by some method accept that the same ethnic group, succeed each other back to back. And I tell you, the Queries are not asking to be governor. The Queries are fair-minded people. They want to see a better River State. They want to see a River State where there is love.
Yes, on week is Query.
Is Query.
He wants to be governor.
He wants to be governor.
Yeah. So you said Equaries don't want to be
No. Equaries, yeah. I mean, the generality of Equaries people.
Okay, the generality of
yes, are well-meaning, and they want to see, a state where there's accommodation, a state that, works for all of us, and so they expect that the next governor of River State wouldn't come from their own ethnic group. And most of them have said so, unequivocally. They've been very vocal about it. The governor of the state talks about it. Several other persons, talk about it. And if you look at the PDP, the only aspirant, right, of Ikwe ethnic nationality,
Yes.
right, it's Honorable Yesom, CON. He's the only one. And if, the Ikwe's felt that, they had a right to it this time around,
many more would have
many
come.
more would have come. Like we found, several Ogoni persons who wanted to be governor, several Calabari persons, the riverine people who wanted to be governor. Because, by the rules, they understand that this was their time. So what is happening now, right, is a strong threat to our sense of a common future. And that is why we must stand against it. That is why we have to speak. And sometimes I worry about this, studious inaction, of the elite. This is a time when we must put our might behind right.
Didn't the fact that the Calabaris and the Ogonis, both ethnic nationalities from the river, couldn't the fact that they couldn't just agree among themselves which of the two sides should have the slot? Didn't that do a lot of damage to the clamor for the governorship to move to the riverine area?
No,
because the argument had always been that when a Calabari man is making that argument, he does so and is arguing for a riverine. He has himself in mind. But when the Ogoni man is around, he makes a general argument for riverine. But when the Ogoni man is not around, he makes an argument for a Calabari man. Ditto for the Ogoni man, who makes an argument for himself when the Calabari man is not around. But when the Calabari man is around, he makes a general argument for the riverine. Didn't that do a lot of damage to?
No, it didn't.
To your
it didn't. First of all, the Ogonis are not riverine. The Ogonis are also part of the upland community.
Yeah, but part of it in
yes, a part of it is riverine, but it's predominantly upland.
Okay.
But the reason why the Ogoni case was equally strong was that because Nigeria was now applying the senatorial argument. If you look to senatorial districts, the Ogoni are from the senatorial district that have yet to produce the governor. So what we have tried to do, right, is to marry the upland riverine dichotomy, right, and the senatorial issues, together. To some people, what we know, right, is the upland riverine bipolar arrangement. But if somebody says, well, I am going to go by the senatorial argument, you won't be able to very quickly dismiss that. That was why the Ogonis, also had a very strong case, right, to provide the next governor of Rivers State.
Where were the Ogonis and the Calabaris when the Orashi declaration was being made?
Well, we have always been very firm. We've always been very resolute. What we wanted was very clear. And we were not speaking, as people who had any sort of ethnicity in mind. We were speaking as Rivers people. For me, it's the general Rivers interest that should always matter. It's not about Lulu-Briggs. I don't have to win, but Rivers State has to win. Therefore, I must avoid pitfalls that I see along the way. I must avoid, signs that are ominous. Because what is happening now, right, will mean to some people that we're allowing some sort of ethnic dominance. And that's very frightening. I just give you an example of what you would expect, in Nigeria that you will expect. If, for instance, after the next 4 years of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, the PDP decides to present a person from the South for president.
Yeah.
There's no way that will happen. So we are saying that, in Rivers State, yes, sometimes political parties would need to do what is expedient politically. But if what is politically correct will give you the results that you look for, in this case, victory, why do what is politically expedient? There are very credible persons, who will win the elections in Rivers State. And I tell you, the argument always is that the only person who can defeat, the incumbent governor is Nyesom Wike, Barrister Nyesom Wike, CON. But I always say that the incumbent governor is not on the ballot. It won't be on the ballot. Therefore, the way you test your strength, is that as the incumbent governor who presents someone for elections, you also, because you have equal strength, present someone. That is how we know that you can defeat the incumbent governor. You're the only one who can do that. If you say that you can only do that if you're the candidate,
through only one person,
then it becomes, an argument that is suspect from the very beginning.
I told you that I have two issues that you raised then. The other one, of course, had to do with whether you were not walking into a cul-de-sac with your two eyes closed or two eyes open, actually. Because it's been argued that the PDP structures in Rivers State had long been in the pocket of Chief Jason Wike, long before now. And you all kept quiet all along. Then you didn't do anything. So every other thing was like building on that superstructure that he already laid long ago when he ensured that the executive was firmly in his hands. But let me read some tweets before you answer that. Guando Jeff says, Dumo is a gentleman, the intelligent, does not look like a typical Nigerian politician. He's a PDP hawks once a week. That's Guando. His Royal Highness Samuelson won, but I read that some, if not most of the other gubernatorial aspirants, especially from the River Rhine, have signed an agreement with Wike. Yes, I was also going to come to that shortly, so I'll still come back to it. Noel Joe says PDP cannot win election in Rivers State. His Royal Highness Samuelson again says, please, the likes of Chief Odili, Uche, and others should resolve all these issues because PDP needs Rivers State totally in 2015. Please, guys. Okay. Sultan of Currency says zoning really matters when it comes to multi-ethnic state like Rivers. If Chief Jason Wike can reclaim the PDP's stolen mandate of Governor Amechi, please, Lulu-Briggs, kindly lend your support. That's His Royal Highness Samuelson again. Sultan of Currency is again. Chances of PDP winning Rivers State governorship is half. All right. Please, sir, are you saying now that you are under the APC or you prefer the APC to rule Rivers State? I beg for PDP unity in Rivers. That's still His Royal Highness Samuelson. Sunny at Social Good says, Briggs sounds very intelligent and sound. Rivers people must stand to uphold the core tenets of democracy. Nigerian politicians are suffering from delusional psychosis. That's sort of currencies. Ugly Nigeria says, Duma Lulu-Briggs is on AIT. The guy Mansty, the vexed, say wicked them out of the race for the brick crib. Laugh out loud. Okay. All right, let's get back to now. Funny, really, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Well, Benga, yes. If a few of us, have agreed to work, with Jason Wike, some of us are still asking for answers. And those of us asking for answers, right, are in the majority. For instance, if you look at the communique that was signed, you found a few signatories there. One, Bekimbo Daogo Jack, Nemi Walston Jack, Dr. Silva Opusunju. I think those are the trade names of aspirants.
Professor Owate, who has always been your spokesperson.
Professor Owate, right, was not an aspirant.
Okay, but he has always been the spokesperson for your group.
Well, he was, was the leader of the Rivers Mainstream Coalition. It was a coalition of some aspirants and some other persons who are not aspirants, but who believe that that power must rotate. Okay. And of course, we had a big rally, where it was stated clearly that in Rivers the power ought to rotate, and it was part of all that. So
what could they have been told that could have swayed their minds down?
Well, people have different reasons for doing the things that they do. Some of us are opposed to some things on the principles. For me, it's not about Dumo Lulu-Briggs. It's about Rivers people. It's about their tomorrow. This election is purely, about Rivers State. It's about the opportunities that we're able to create, in Rivers State. And I know, and I've always maintained, that if we do not get the politics right, we're not going to get the governance right. And all the issues that we have raised in the last 16 years, why we cry that, that 95% of us are not part of the prosperity that we ought to have in Rivers State, or that we do have in Rivers State. And people ask, what sort of prosperity will leave 95% of our people behind? These are the issues. And these are the things, that give rise to poor governance. And if we are concerned about our people and not about ourselves, then we must stick with the principles. That is why you find that till today, someone like Professor Dombareda, the former Vice Chancellor of University of Port Harcourt, is still with us. He's still asking for questions, he's still asking for answers Honorable Power Minister Samuel Horsfall is asking for answers.
P.
Thompson is asking for answers. I am asking for answers.
Prince-Will has left.
Prince-Will has left in anger. Engineer Samson Ngerebara is asking for answers. Major Lancelot Anyanya is asking, for answers. H. Odey Ajimogobia is asking for answers, and it's in court. So you ask yourself, who are the parties that have purportedly, reconciled or are willing?
Is it that nobody has approached you, or they have approached you? You are not interested in what they are saying, or what?
Well, that's
because I'm aware that the party set up, I think, a 69-member committee, which was subsequently divided into 3. With mandate to go to each of the senatorial districts. Are you saying nobody has approached you?
Well, I'm not sure that any member of the 69 that have approached, the aspirants. What I see happening in Rivers State is that the candidate himself, supposedly is meeting with some aspirants.
Has he made overtures to you?
Oh, well, yes. I mean, it's called me once or twice, and I've said, well, given the build-up to the primary and all the things that transpired, right? The lack of trust, that was built, and all the poor processes, promises that were not kept. For instance, some of us were aware, were disqualified by the PDP screening committee in Rivers State that were not members of the party. So these things, were orchestrated by certain individuals, and now you want to benefit from your wrong. And we say that, well, as a party, we would listen. But we expect the highest organs of our party to sit us down, right, and find answers to these issues. Because we come from constituencies, we need to go back to our people and tell our people that, well, that this is the situation. As bad as it seems, perhaps accept it.
Yeah.
Or, well, it's beyond, what we can accept. So let's call for a change. And I think that, the PDP is a very large party. The umbrella is large enough to accommodate all of us. And the PDP would always do what is right. I think it is not late, and some of us have remained in the PDP because we like the ideals, of the PDP. We want to see those ideals apply in the Rivers situation.
Do you truly hope to get something positive or a positive hearing at all from the PDP National Secretariat, when it's been argued that long before now, the PDP National Secretariat had thrown his weight behind Chief Wike? The PDP National Chairman, Muazu, was reported to have been in Rivers State several times, even before the race started, to raise Chief Wike's hands as the anointed candidate of the party. He presides over the NWC. What do you expect to get from such an NWC of your party?
Well,
and then again, if you, sorry sir, I apologize. If you also look at the other structures of the party, including structures not known within the party, individuals that are also stakeholders, power brokers within the PDP, and the roles they have played, the fact that they have pitched their support with Wike long before now. Former Governor Peter Odili is an ardent supporter of Chief Wike. He's the leader of the PDP in Rivers State. Am I right? Even the First Lady has not spared any moment to continue to campaign for a Wike governorship in Rivers State. I don't know of the president. I don't know whether when the First Lady speaks, I don't know whether she also speaks for the entire First family or she speaks for herself.
Well, let me take it from the First Lady's position first. I mean, she is one arm of the First family. Well, the First family is together. I think that she's a fantastic woman. She's a credible woman. She's a mother. What you find happening between the First Lady and Wike is what you will see between a mother and a beloved son. She loves him, and then that our mother sometimes will give us chocolate even when they know that chocolate is bad for us, just because we ask for it. That's how I can explain what has happened between the First Lady and Wike. And then I also want to ask you, the number of Nigerians, highly placed Nigerians, who supported Obasanjo's third term, or who wanted Obasanjo, right, to have a third term. Very highly placed Nigerians. And what did Obasanjo say of them afterwards? That all of those persons were enemies of Nigeria. Because you see, what they wanted, right, was to serve themselves. So sometimes it doesn't matter how highly placed individuals are. We need to look at the motive behind what they are asking for. Let's take Dr. Peter Lee, for instance, and he's someone I have tremendous respect for. Right? What would he say is his reason for believing that only Nyesom Wike can win elections in Rivers State, or for throwing his weight behind him? Is it because he's from a large ethnic group? Peter Lee was not from a very large ethnic group, but the rest of Rivers State supported him, particularly the Calabar, the riverine people, supported him, and of course he became governor. So, if he goes by his own example, then he knows that there are arguments, right, that must be used to defeat the argument or the thinking that only Nyesom Wike can win elections in Rivers State. So, and then we also ask ourselves, can you win the elections only when you're on the ballot yourself? Or if you have tremendous support, or people believe in you,
groundswell of support.
Groundswell of support. Then you can field the candidate, right, and throw your weight behind that candidate. Now, should we put our individual interest above that of the party and of the state? That's what I ask. So I think that we must at all times learn to subordinate our interest to the interest of the society that we're a part of. That's my argument. And I think that is why, we're still here. And I've always said to everybody who cares to listen, it is not about Dumo Lulu-Briggs. I don't have to be governor of Rivers State. Just recently I did some work, because I believe that whosoever has the capacity should try and impact on society positively. So I haven't stopped what I'm known to do all the time. Try and reach out to those,
charity, philanthropic works.
Yes, of course, who live in the shadows of life. So even as people were crying over the primaries and all that, I was still doing charity work, looking after our mothers, looking after our children, taking care of students and all that. We will always do those things. In your own ways, whatever you can do, always do, right, to help society. Don't think that society is about you. It's about you and your neighbor. And I ask people this question again all the time. If you know that as a politician, you cannot love your neighbor the way you love yourself, why would you want to aspire to govern that neighbor? Now, so if you love that neighbor, then you must always consider that neighbor's interest. Therefore, nobody can make the argument that only Nyesom Wike, right, can win the elections for PDP in Rivers State. It runs against the evidence. It's completely in the opposite direction of the evidence. So I don't see why anybody would think about it or would even want to accept it. Now we talk about the supposed political juggernauts who are throwing their weight behind Nyesom Wike. Now, did they also mention the rank and file? And that is why you have issues. Is there ever a time, when the heavyweights are more in number than the rank and file? So you can have the heavyweights and you don't have the rank and file. And when it gets to elections, it is one man, one vote. So are they concerned about the PDP? Are they bothered about the fortunes of our great party? Or we are thinking about ourselves? So it is not enough to come on TV and mention heavyweights that are behind you. You need to mention the rank and file. When I go out now, you see a lot of young people, women, students, who come out in the numbers, even now. So if we begin to say, oh, well, based on that, I should be given the ticket, then of course I'll be making a lot of sense, because it's about numbers. But anyway, for me, the Rivers question is something that
where does that leave? Obviously, you are still very aggrieved, but where does that leave the PDP in all of this? And I know that you have told me over and over again that you are a member of the PDP and you are not considering leaving that platform for anybody.
I'm not aggrieved. I'm just concerned.
Concerned for who now?
For my party, for the state.
Has a presidential candidate?
Precisely.
Who needs all the votes at this particular time?
No,
and in this very crucial election.
And you know that the president, right, is the leader of the party. And the president, I would claim till tomorrow, is from Rivers State. Right? So you understand the geopolitics. And I worry because the narrative is beginning to move from Nyesom Wike to Mr. President. And I would hate to see anything that will affect the fortunes of our party, especially in the elections for president. Because frankly, as pained, as I am what's happening, in my state, right? I must subordinate that, to the interest of Nigeria. If I put the interest of Nigeria, right, ahead of my interest, I will always vote for President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Because if the APC were sincere, they will not tell Nigerians that 31 years after, General Buhari should still be the face of this country. In any case, I mean, what memories do we have? What was our experience in the 20 or so months that he was president, or he was head of state? All of us were crying, we were praying every day. I mean, people were going to their churches, people were going to their mosques and praying that draconian regime, right, should come to an end somewhat. And God answered our prayers. And the APC say 31 years after that we must go back to that era and that age and that pain.
People change.
Well, we don't see the evidence yet. We don't see the evidence yet. So I worry, and then this president has done tremendously well. Tremendously well. Works more than 20 hours, every day for us. I asked, even 31 years ago when Buhari was the head of state, his second in command was the person that was more visible, that had almost, carried out all the actions. 31 years after, do we think that Buhari would still have the energy?
All right, Duma, we have to go now. So many tweets that are pending as well. Let me see if I can just read one or two. Awola Jadane says, if Wike is the only option, I don't see PDP winning in Rivers. Akogun says, Gbega, if today is the last show for the year, I would have said you have the best governor to be that was denied the opportunity to serve. That's the views of Akogun. Ibrahim Zom says, Ogagbega, when will you invite APC chieftains? When they are ready, we will invite them. Or is it focused Nigeria, or is focused Nigeria now a PDP platform? Hell no. It is a platform for you and I, for all Nigerians. Thank you. Are you a chief yet? No, he's a prince, huh?
Well, I prefer to be called a barrister.
All right, Barrister Duma Lulu-Briggs is a chieftain of the PDP, still prefers to be identified as well as a PDP governorship aspirant in Rivers State. He has joined me for this morning's conversation. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year in advance. All right, can you have your seat back?
Thank you.
Thank you, Nigerians, for investing your time with us. I will see you tomorrow, God willing. My name is Ben Garuleba.
Now one wonders.